to Dualshock'd, the Brotherhood of Geeks PlayStation podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brett J. Rasmussen, and over here I got one of my hosts. I got Spectre, and over here I got Guru Blaz.
What's up?
Woo! It's the three of us again. It's been a while.
Indeed.
How you guys been doing?
Quite a while.
I know,
Yeah.
right? I know, right? How have
I've
you
been
guys...
too busy. I've been too busy working and being so tired that I don't want to do anything. That's essentially it.
Same here, more or less. I mean, I'm doing a lot of work. I'm doing a major remodel. I'm making a game room out of my basement of sorts.
Wow.
For board games. So
Board games.
y'all are. Yeah, I love my board games, man.
Dude, I'm so
y'all are
down.
welcome.
I got nobody to play board games with. Nobody wants to play board games.
Oh man, you guys you're all welcome once it's done. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna have like a full like.
Do you do
table and stuff.
D&D?
I don't do D&D, but I'm very willing to try it.
All right.
Oh, dude,
because I've been trying to get on some D&D forever, dude, and it's just so hard to find people that are just either willing to commit or just willing to like give it a shot, and it's such a good time.
I mean, I play D&D. I enjoy it also myself, so that would definitely be.
Well,
great.
I've only been able to dabble because every time I've tried, like everything fizzles out, and I'm the only one that's just like, "Come on, man, I want to play this game," but everybody's else they're just being big weenies.
No,
I'd be down for it. I'd be totally down for it.
Well, wait.
Yeah, other
Out
than
of
that,
curiosity, what board games do you currently play like now? Like
what
as a
don't I play? I mean, I have like some games I haven't really tried out yet, like that I really want to get into, like War of the Ring. I have the
Is that Lord of the Rings?
Anniversary Edition. It's Lord of the Rings. It's like the most complicated Lord of the Rings game you could possibly imagine.
Sounds fun.
wow.
For me, when it comes to board games, the more complicated it is, the better. Because
you got more options. People look at it. It's not a difficulty thing. It's like for me, it's like the more complicated, the more ability, the more agency,
the more replay factor to it. You know, the more things that can change.
I've heard like Settlers of Catan is good. There's a bunch of H.P. Lovecraft inspired games that I've wanted to try.
I mean, honestly, man, you name it. I mean, like I said, once I get my room up and running, I will be hosting board game nights frequently.
That'll be great.
I'm so down. I need that. I fucking need that in my life right now, honestly.
I'm in, dude. I'm in. I mean, we might be able to social distance and still play board games, but yeah.
Dude, I'll wear a mask. You can't play a board game over. That defeats the purpose.
Oh no,
unless the host would be uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I mean, it's up to you.
I get you. But
the latest thing in the news is there's I guess a 90% effective vaccine that they're working on. So,
indeed.
Yeah, but the reason why I wanted to bring all of us back together, it's been a while. The PS5 comes out this week. And
hard to believe.
And what I thought would be really fun is for us to kind of discuss...
Talk about how you're the only one who has it pre-ordered because I wasn't able to make a pre-order because everybody keeps fucking around on me.
Wow, I mean...
And I really didn't want to pre-order it, so...
Well, I would have, but I didn't... Like, it just went on and off before I even knew what happened. And it's like the day after, and I'm on Reddit, and it's like, oh, they're gone, and no one knew it was coming out. And I was like, well, no, I can't worry about it now.
Isn't there going to be a thing like on launch day, though, where you can, if you're like sitting there hitting refresh the whole time, you can possibly get one?
See, but you know what? Honestly, I'll be honest, like the way I was planning on doing it anyway is like, when it comes to consoles, I'm not a pre-order person. I mean, I'm usually not a pre-order person anyways, except for very specific things. But my plan was I will probably be purchasing the system next year because I want it to come out. I want to put my ear to the ground, and I want to know exactly how it performs before I actually buy one. because I have more than enough unfinished games on my PS4 plus all my other systems to carry me through until I know for certain. Because it's not even a matter of the price. I'm sure that if it does what it can say it does, like $500 or what? Because I'm or eight. What is the 500 for the disc drive one?
Yes, 500 for
Yeah,
standard.
that's the one I'm getting because digital only. I honestly think it's like one step above a scam. Like I don't trust digital enough to just solely rely on that. So, like, I'm gonna wait a couple months after it's released. Is that if everything's on the up and up, then no questions asked, I'm gonna buy one.
Yeah. But like that's the PS5 is coming out this week, and that's like people are excited, like me. Other people are not, and other people are mad about yes, exactly. And other people are mad they couldn't get their pre-orders, like Guru Blaz. But what I thought we should do is to kind of go back over this past generation of the PS4, going from the launch of the system to like the game library and kind of how it leads into the PS5 and kind of talk about
its trajectory through time, basically.
Yep. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and begin with the only topic, the main topic. This is our PlayStation conversation. PlayStation. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Goddamn, better believe it.
Yeah.
Big bada boom.
There's no feedback. Actually, before we start, there's no feedback coming from my mic, right? I have a game on in the background.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay, I haven't heard a thing.
Nope, I just hear you, Spectre.
I got it down pretty low, but just making sure.
What are you playing?
Phantasmagoria.
Is it good? I've seen a playthrough of it, like a comedic, like some guy was like talking over it.
Spoony did one a long time ago. Yeah, and I'm finally
playing. It's fucking hilarious, dude.
It was $3 on Steam, so I'm like, why not? And it's I guess it boots off a DOSBox here because I saw a little DOSBox logo come up. It's
like the playthrough that I saw. Like, I mean, the commentator was really. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Accursed Farms, but he did the Freeman's Mind, where he like dubbed over like the original Half-Life, like what Gordon Freeman was thinking. It's the same guy, but it's like a playthrough. Fucking hysterical, dude. That game was ridiculous because he plays all those old like Sierra Nevada text adventure. You know,
you don't have games like this anymore, like the point and click style games. I mean, it just doesn't really.
Well, they're still made, but it's a much smaller, like very niche type of thing. Like you're gonna find it for $3 on Steam type of niche.
Yeah, so I'm just screwing around with this right now, but
I have been playing through Baldur's Gate 1, which has been fun.
Nice.
I gotta check that out eventually.
Dude, it's based off the D&D thing. It's fun, man. And it's only like $20, but it's like a huge ass RPG, especially for the time it came out.
I would like to play Baldur's Gate. I haven't played it, but yeah.
Dude, Baldur's Gate 3 looks fucking amazing. I cannot wait.
So let's go ahead and begin where back in 2013 when this system got announced back in February. Back in February of 2013, there was a pretty much event in New York where they pretty much announced that the PS4 exists, and the only thing we saw a bunch of games and they showed off the DualShock 4. Do you guys remember that event at all?
Yeah, I do. I mean,
I want to say vaguely. I'm not gonna pretend that I like witnessed it or anything, but I vaguely remember it because I'll be honest. At the time, I had a 360, and I was like kind of on Microsoft at the time because the PS3 was nothing I was interested in. Like there was exclusives on it that I would be like, yeah, I would play that, but I'm not paying twice the amount for the system I just bought, which has just as many games, if not the same games for the most part.
So yeah, we'll start with Guru Blaz. Guru Blaz, tell me what you do remember, regardless of how much or how little. What do you remember of like the announcement of the PS4, whether the event or just in general?
Well, it was more of a general sense because I wasn't as into like game news
Mm-hmm.
as I am now as I was then, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. But
Yeah.
like I suppose it was more of a general sense at the time, and it's a vague, hazy mist for me because again, like I wasn't focusing on it,
Mm-hmm.
but I definitely do remember like when the PS4 was coming out because I'm trying to. Did the Xbox One precede the PS4, or was it at the same time?
Same time.
Okay,
What Xbox did is that so how it worked that year is that in February PlayStation announced the PS4. And then we heard that Xbox was also going to announce it, but they were going to announce the next system closer to E3. So in about May, near the end of May, they had their own press conference. That was the one
that
where
was still Project Scorpio, right? At
yes,
that point,
exactly. It was still
Much
Project
cooler name.
Scorpio. Um,
honestly, yeah, dude, they should have just called it that and got rid of the whole Xbox garbage.
so it was called. So we all we knew about is Project Scorpio, and then they had the event that pretty much like hurt them immensely. And then we had at E3, we had that. But before we get to there, let's talk about the launch. Let's start from the launch, that announcement conference in New York first, before we kind of go further.
Sure. Well,
Um,
I'll tell you the one thing I remember, like, I guess not really even like again, more of a general feeling, but I
mhm.
remember that like when they were both announced, as things went on, the PS4 very quickly became more interesting to me
Mhm.
than the Xbox One Project Scorpio because I was starting to get into. I always had a stigma, like for a very, very long time, about
Mhm.
turn-based games, like strategy games,
Yeah.
Final Fantasy type games.
Mhm.
I always had this stigma about it. I was like, oh, that's so boring. There's no action, blah 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 blah. And then now, I mean, I've been playing Persona 5 every day for the past like 2 weeks. So
Nice.
like, well, and it was just like it changed. I'm really into XCOM now. I really like, because I still like, your Dark Souls, your fighting. I love fighting games. I love
Mhm.
fast, real time action. But I've grown to love the nice, chill pace of like a turn based, Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross. Like it's still very fun, good story, good music, and then it's like I can like chill, have a beer, and you know, plan everything. It's
Mhm.
especially with like how much I work now, and sometimes I'm tired, and I'm not in the mood for a Sekiro, even though I love that game,
Yeah.
or like a Ghost of Tsushima. It's like I can just pick something and plan it out. I don't gotta worry about constantly being on my toes type of thing.
Yeah.
And that was kind of eventually my growing love of that is what made me start to lean towards the PS4 to start with.
Mhm.
But then it was just basically or basically as it has been, is the exclusives.
Yeah.
All of the coolest fucking games were coming out on PlayStation.
Mhm.
I mean, Xbox has its, the way I always see it is Xbox has Forza, which I don't play. Not that I have anything against it. Like, again, all games are good to those who like them.
Mhm.
I, the beholder type stuff. But there's Forza, there's Halo, and there's Gears of War. That's
Mhm.
it. That's really it. And
Yeah.
Killer Instinct is the only fighting game exclusive to PS4, or I mean Xbox, which I wish wasn't the case because it is very fun,
Mhm.
but it's not enough to make me buy that console just for that.
Yeah.
And I like Gears of War and I like Halo as well. Like those are both amazing game franchises.
Mhm.
Like they both set standards,
Yeah.
both of them
And
individually
I'll
set
say I
different.
was largely in the same boat as you, where I was more of an Xbox guy. I really was not excited about the PlayStation 4 in the least, and I wasn't expecting to buy one. I really wasn't. And even after the first event, I mean, I think remember it pretty well. There wasn't a whole lot. I don't think we actually even got a look at the system itself at that time.
No, so at the event, we didn't get to see the box. We only got the hardware. We got to see pretty much the DualShock 4. That was the only piece of hardware we got to see. But at this conference, that's where they announced game after game after game after game. That's when they announced there's going to be a Kingdom Hearts 3, a Final Fantasy 7 remake, and then we got the announcement of like Infamous Second Son, Order 1886, so on and so forth. And they were explaining like specs and tech and the resolution. I believe that's where like they said about the resolution, and then Xbox later when they had their event in May, they said their specs and their tech, and then that's when Resolution Gate happened. But it was more they didn't want to show the system itself until Microsoft went. That's why they were waiting on. That's why at E3 we got to see the system itself. We only got to see the DualShock 4, which like. From that event, what else do you remember from their Spectre? Because it sounds like you do remember that event much more vividly.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, it wasn't something that sold me on the PlayStation 4. I mean, I remember there was a degree of excitement around it, but at the time, like I said, I really just kind of glazed my eyes over. I'm like, well, I'm never going to get a PlayStation 4, or if I do get one, it's going to be later in the life cycle. I really, at that point, had no intention of buying one. I was very much just dead set on getting the next Xbox, because I was a 360 player basically through the end. I had a PS3, but I spent 95% of my time on my Xbox or PC. So I was really not looking forward to it all. And that I mean, the conference, I mean, while it piqued my interest, it was not enough to really get me interested. I was not a fan of most of Sony's exclusives, with the exception of like God of War and Shadow of the Colossus. So it wasn't something that sold me. That was coming later, and that's what we're gonna get to next. I know.
Yep. So for me, I was actually in New York when that event happened. I didn't go into the event. I wasn't like a part of.
I forgot. Yeah, you used to live in New York, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. So I was in New York when that happened, and I went to the venue where it was, and I got to like talk and hang out with like all of the people who were going into the event, and just kind of being in that atmosphere of the excitement that people were excited about this next gen console, the PS4, and that kind of thing. And then I remember, I was in that, I was there, and then after, the event was happening, I went back to where I was staying at the time. And I watched the replay of it, and I remember watching it. And for me, I very much was a PlayStation guy. I went from PS1, I had an original Xbox, and then when the 360 happened, me and my brother were like, okay, do we want to get a 360 or PS3? And we got a PS3 because it was the backwards compatible one, and so on and so forth, and the rest is history. So I was already going like, I can't wait for the PS4. I was so excited. And then they go, Order 1886, Infamous Second Son, Kingdom Hearts 3, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, so on and so forth, and all these different things that I was like looking forward to. And that's kind of where like my excitement, I think that cemented myself into being more of a PlayStation fan, even more.
I will say I was someone, I forgot that those games were kind of revealed there. I was impressed with Order 1886. I was interested in that, and at least a little bit impressed from a graphical standpoint with Infamous.
So and for me, like that's where a lot of like the trajectory of just personally, kind of how this show, like how this came to be, is kind of from that event. For me, how the creation of the Brotherhood of Geeks kind of came from that event. And so that happened, and then we move. So then we haven't heard from PlayStation. We know of this, and the excitement of that happens. We then move on into May, where Xbox announces their system, and they announce, that's where they reveal the box. They reveal everything, and there were a lot of things that people didn't like, the DRM policies and always online, and so on and so forth.
I think you have to emphasize too. I mean, it's this time around, it's so different. I mean, I really don't feel like there's a ton of like hype or big controversies surrounding like the PlayStation 5 and the Series X. But the launch of the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One thing I'll characterize it as was it was loaded with controversy and just these explosive, big reveals around E3. And
well,
and
no, I
right now.
agree, because that was like, I think that's. I mean, I can't speak because obviously like the next generation hasn't come out yet, but like when the PS4 and the Xbox One released, there was like no more hype ever for a system release, I don't think. Like, I mean, I can't speak for, past ages, and maybe, I remember when the PS2 came out. I remember when the PS1 was out, but it's like when the PS4, because we had finally gotten to a point technology-wise with consoles where like when the PS4 and the Xbox One came out is like, this is true, like this is the start of the future of gaming, like the next generation, because this was like games that like finally gotten to a point where they have like superseded what anybody would have even thought was possible 10 years prior.
Yeah. So we'll touch back on that when we kind of get later in this. So we have the reveal of the Xbox One, and that was there are memes and everything about that conference and everything about, the Xbox One was more of a all-in-one system, where PlayStation's message was more of like games, because they even admitted we messed up with the PS3. We're like, that's why it's that's why they said greatness awaits, or they.
I mean, there was a lot to that reveal, but I mean, one of the big messages of Xbox at the time was that it was a multimedia platform that
like
TV integration and sports and
exactly, because the people who were watching that event weren't the casual fan base. It was the hardcore. Where are the games? We're here for games. That's why we buy these systems. We're here to, but like, we're gonna buy these day one. And they went, look at, you can watch cable, you can do this.
Well, and I don't think that that's a bad move or a bad thing that they added more general functionality to the system.
But you have to look at it when...
No, right. But there's, for me, it's two things. It's one, a PC does everything, and it would do it better than that on all of those. And two, you're selling a game console, and you can mention that you have new features, but those are, like, being able to, stream movies or watch news or whatever it would have been. Those are features. Those are features, though.
Yeah.
And you can't focus on that as a selling point when you're going up against another game system, because no one's like, if you get a computer, you can do everything you can do with that plus a bunch more. When you buy a game system, it's to be able to play those games on that system that you can't get on a PC, or if, like, again, with exclusives, like, well, which game do I want most? Or which group, like, how many more games do I want that are only on this system than this one? That's what it came down to for me.
Yeah, and like, the messaging was really muddled at that conference, where they were like, TV, cable, games, TV. Like, that's the whole thing. And then they went, all right, we're going to be packaging the Kinect with it, which people already had a bad stigma with the 360 Kinect. And now they're like, oh, you're packaging it with it? It always had to be online. There was a lot of DRM things that people didn't like. And mind you, it's a different time in 2020. But back in 2013, we didn't have the smart home devices. Our devices didn't connect to the internet all of the time back in 2013. So that was a big stigma. Like, in my opinion, I think Xbox was ahead of their time, but because of when they were doing that, it hurt them. Or PlayStation at E3 literally, like that. If you watch that E3 conference in 2013, it's night and day. Xbox goes first. They go ahead and do their thing. Then PlayStation comes out and goes, "Okay, here we go." And that's like at that E3 conference. That's where we got the famous, like it was Shu, and I believe it was pretty much the head of PlayStation US. Pretty much going, not the head of PlayStation US. He was the social media head. I can't remember, but it was the whole one where like, this is how you trade games, and you pass the game off to the other person, and that was it. Like that was the meme that
it was
happened.
it was very cutthroat. It almost reminded me of the old like Sega Nintendo rivalries where they got these direct digs on each other.
Like you watched it and you just saw like
wasn't there a point where it might have been the PS1. But like someone just came out and just said the price of the system, and it was lower than their predecessor, and then just that was all they said and walked back off stage.
That was you're remembering the PlayStation 1 reveal where the guy, I can't remember the guy's name.
He's just like $300 walks off stage.
He actually had a whole presentation prepared, and he just walks up, he says $299 and walks off.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
That's kind of what happened here, because at E3 we got everything. We knew the price and everything. Xbox One was $500, where PlayStation comes out and goes, it's $400, and just everything at that event just made the momentum of the console war completely shifted into PlayStation's favor almost entirely.
Okay, but I got a question for both of you. It's like, okay, so like, everything else aside, like hardware capability, all that's like, do you think that undercutting the price is like just such a power move that people would just move to you anyway, even if you had an inferior product?
Yes. I know Brett would disagree on me on this.
No. Here's the thing. You and I have talked just like off camera, in person. Like you and I have discussed this, and at first I was like, no, it's exclusives or the games or whatever. Like, but you and I have discussed this, and no, price is a massive proponent of why the PS4 got that massive amount of momentum. You got a $400 system that did just the system. It's like, here's your system, buy your games. You don't have this idiot camera that no one wants, even though it's a good camera. Like the Kinect is a really
well, it had a lot of cool features, but it's like I had a Kinect for my 360, and it was fun for like a day, and then I used it for voice commands for like a month, and then I was just like, ended up getting $10 for it like 2 years later, because I was like, I'm never using this.
And that's what happened.
Trying to pause a movie while audio is playing is like the most it's such an oversight.
And also
because you have to like yell over it and it might not go through.
But it's also that stigma, that exact stigma that you're talking about. Also, people were like, the Kinect? I already have a hard time with the 360 Kinect. You're giving me a new one? Like that stigma of the Kinect also bled into the Xbox One. So that's kind of where the momentum shifted into that. But Spectre, to answer Guru Blaz's question about does price truly matter?
Very much so. Yeah, I would argue it's one of the most important factors. I mean, I think that was a bombshell when they revealed that the system was going to be $100 cheaper than its competition. And I mean, we all kind of know why. A big part of that was the Kinect being forcibly bundled with the Xbox One. Mm-hmm. But that was like a slam dunk. I mean, on top of it was just the final nail in the coffin for the Xbox when they revealed that, between the exciting games that they were promising, and between the better performance, resolution, and then on top of it, it's gonna be $100 cheaper than your competition. I mean, that was it blew us away. And by the way, we're not gonna force always online. We're not gonna make you get rid of your used games.
Yep.
We're not gonna do all these other egregious things that our competition is doing. I mean, it was just like a perfect storm of everything that was going of everything going in their favor. And then on top of that, let's not ignore the other player in the room, which is Nintendo. Nintendo was really struggling around that time.
Yeah.
With the Wii U being a really essentially their worst system ever. next to the Virtual Boy even.
Yeah.
And I mean, so they were struggling too. So it was kind of like it reminded me of the energy around the PlayStation 2, where you had, major competitors, that Sony would normally would be squaring off against, were not doing so well, or they were struggling to get their footing, and it led to a dominant it led Sony to get into this this dominant market share.
I agree. Like in that, and also their messaging at E3 and kind of consistently from February to E3 and then into the future, like into the present, has been, here are games. It was just they were just, here's games. The only time they like really had someone come out and talk was when they talked about the specs, and they were talking like, let's talk about the system. They showcased indie games, which was like amazing. They were like, indie games matter to us, where at Xbox at the time they were like, yeah, no. So like the messaging,
if it isn't AAA, then it ain't gonna play.
But that was the messaging from PlayStation. Like, we care about, like, they even had, like, before launch or like at the conference, they explained how they developed the console. They were like, we talked to our partners and publishers, and we wanted to build the system that's best for them but also best for you. And that was the messaging, is like, this system is made for
the best of both worlds. It allows the creators to create to their utmost and the user to use to their fullest.
Mm-hmm. So, and I remember watching that E3, and it was night. Like, as I said, it was like night and day. I was watching that, losing my mind about just how hard PlayStation was beating the tar out of Xbox at that time. I was like, wow, your messaging is exactly what I want to hear. And it like, that's where I was just like, okay, well, I'm set, because like the Xbox One was like, I was like, all right, do I want to go back to Xbox, or do I want to stay with PlayStation? And for me, what made me stay was like, here's Infamous, here's Order 1886. Oh, do you like Kingdom Hearts? It's on PlayStation. Oh, you like Final Fantasy? It's all the exclusives. For me personally, was the reason why I'm like, yep, I'm getting a PS4 hands down. And honestly, this generation kind of cemented me going, yep, PlayStation, for me personally. Which then we go into the launch of the PS4. The system comes out pretty much around the same time as the Xbox One. And then, like, kind of the launch lineup we had, mind you, surprisingly, PlayStation didn't have that many exclusives at launch. They had Knack and Killzone Shadowfall. That was it. They were supposed to get Drive Club, but that got pushed back. Where Xbox had the next Forza, I believe it was like Forza 5.
Well, I think that's the one advantage that Xbox was like pushing to maintain, was the fact that all of their major titles were like basically in-house. So they didn't have to, because it's like when you're coming out with stuff like Knack, just like, not that I haven't played them. I'm sure they're not bad games, but they're not the games you're, dying to get.
The thing is with the exclusive games launch at that time for Knack was very much like, hey, look at what we can do. Here's a fun little platformer, and Knack is fun. It's fine. There's it's not bad. But it's just kind of, it's a platformer. That's it. And then Killzone Shadowfall was like, look at this tech demo. Look at how gorgeous this system is. Like, and like, that was really more of like, look at how gorgeous the graphics are on this system. Where you had, like, pretty much within the first year, like, it took a while for PlayStation to start, like, all right, exclusives, here you go. But it was like, I remember I was like, wow, why are Xbox getting all these exclusives and PlayStation that has like nothing? It was like, I remember within the first year, it was like only like maybe 2 to 4 exclusives, while Xbox was like throwing them out left, right, and center. Xbox exclusive launch was Dead Rising 4.
3.
Oh, 3. Thank you. I thought. Okay, thank you. It was Dead Rising 3.
Yeah, I really don't feel like Xbox had a huge glut of exclusives at the time, though. I mean, maybe that's just me, but...
like, the thing is, it wasn't a lot.
Other than the big 3. That's what I'm saying. There's Halo, Forza, and Gears of War.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what happened.
Those are the biggest titles that really have ever come out on Xbox, in my opinion. And they've always been able to push it because, like I said, those titles were, for lack of a better term, like an in-house thing that they could just self-develop and have ready. Where I think that when the PS4 was first coming out, like, not to say they didn't have some good titles, but they were with a lot of third-party developers, and they're not, Sony themselves isn't developing a lot of the major games that they're famous for.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of happened a little bit later. The exclusive launch was Dead Rising 3, the next Forza, which I believe was Forza 5, and then Rise. Those were the 3 exclusives, and then like within that time, like I'm not saying it was they had like a spew of them, because as the PS4, and let's talk about the games, but as the years gone by, more and more exclusives on the PlayStation brand started to come out, and then by like 2015, 2016, almost every, like, there was at least one PlayStation exclusive game that would be nominated for Game of the Year. What was it? Last year, I believe it was Death Stranding was a part of it. 2018, you had 2 of them.
Death Stranding is not a PlayStation exclusive.
Well, the way they were marketing, like, yes, I understand it's not within the PlayStation.
What was Sekiro was Game of the Year last year.
I'm talking about nominated. I'm talking about nominated.
You're such a liar.
I mean, it won, so I mean, there you go.
No, I get you, but
we know you hate it, Brett, but
I actually enjoy. I
think Sekiro has one of the most beautiful combat systems ever made.
Mm-hmm. In 2018, you had 2 of them nominated. You have Marvel, Spider-Man, and God of War. And then 2017,
you see that, and that's the thing. I think I agree with your larger point that eventually PlayStation 4 started to have a great deal of pretty high quality exclusives.
Mm-hmm.
But I think let's not forget that for the first half of the PlayStation 4's life cycle, actually it was pretty rough.
Yeah, it was.
There wasn't much at all. And I mean, it wasn't just the first year. I mean,
no,
it was kind of blunder after blunder. I mean, let's be honest, Killzone, Shadowfall, and Knack did not do well.
No.
You had Infamous, which did okay. Was I think a pretty decent game.
Mm-hmm.
Was it an all-time classic? No, but I think it was the start of a good reason to own a PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
And but I mean, really, you didn't see. There's a lot of disappointment. I mean, Order 1886. I mean, was disappointing. I mean, there was. I really don't. For me personally, at least, I don't feel like the console really came into its own until about maybe 20. You could argue like 2016.
That's what I was. That's what I would.
And you know what? That's funny you say that, because that's like when I bought one. Around that era.
The thing is,
because I had my 360, I was playing my 360 for years and years, and I was always on the fence about, like, because after they had released, it was years after they both came out, and I still hadn't purchased an Xbox One or a PS4. And like my PS4 that I own now is used. I bought it like 7 years ago. Like, used at GameStop. But it's like when I went in to eventually, make the decision and purchase it, I was like, gotta go with the PS4. And the first 2 games I bought were Last of Us Remastered and Bloodborne.
I mean, honestly, like, Bloodborne helped kind of get over that, like...
I think Bloodborne's one of the greatest games ever made.
Bloodborne definitely did help that kind of, that lull, that kind of, like, why should I buy a PS4? Bloodborne definitely helped that. But I, like, in, like, late 2015, 2016, I believe that's when it started, like, oh, here you go. This is why, because I believe in 2016, that's when Uncharted 4 came out. And that's a big title. That's a massive title. That's a game that tons of people buy. And then
the one other thing for me is like at that time, like I was saying earlier, how I was starting to get into like RPG turn-based strategy games. The PS4 is the only place for me to play any JRPGs, and I like JRPGs. So, like, your Persona, your Valkyria Chronicles, you know, any of that style of stuff, it's like there was no Final Fantasy. Like, there wasn't, like, it was PS4. That was, like, where to get it on. There's nothing like that on Xbox, like, at all, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what RPG of that type could you even... I mean, maybe there is one, but offhand, I can't think of a single RPG on Xbox that falls into those categories.
Mm-hmm. Let's kind of talk about some of our like favorite memories throughout the years, just kind of playing games on the PS4. Spectre, let's begin with you. What are some of your like favorite memories of whatever games or whatever would be of like your experience of the PS4?
Yeah, I mean, well, there was I mean, just focusing really on the exclusive experiences. That's really the motivating factor for me when buying a console, and that's why I will eventually get a PlayStation 5, even though I'm a very vocal critic of the PlayStation 5.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I don't believe that Sony's ever going to get back to the glory days of like a PlayStation 2 and where that was like my primary system. That's all I played on. But yeah, no, I mean, there was a lot of good stuff that came out this generation, and I mean, it's easy to pick on stuff like God of War and stuff like that. But even going back to early on, I really enjoyed Infamous. Infamous Second Son actually kind of sold me on the series. I was sort of I played Infamous 1 and 2, and I thought they were kind of meh. I'm like, okay, these are fun, I get it, but I thought Prototype was better, to be honest. But
oh, dude, Prototype! I feel like Prototype, like, didn't it precede Infamous?
Prototype.
You might be right. They came out almost at the same time, though.
Yeah, Prototype.
But that's what I was saying is like, because I've beaten Prototype 1 and 2, but when I played Prototype 1 and then I tried Infamous, it's like, dude, Prototype's so much better than this. Because there was so much more to do. Like, as far as your power set and everything,
I liked Prototype a lot more, but Infamous Second Son, I mean, really, I mean, maybe it was the graphics, maybe it was, just how the game was presented, but I really started to enjoy that series now. It's to the point where I would, if there was another Infamous game that comes along, I would go for that. But really, I mean, a lot of my most fondest memories probably come later in the console's life cycle. I think it was a weak system from, its launch 2013 on until about 2016 2017 or so, but then you started getting the really heavy hitters. You got your God of War. I'll never forget playing that for the first time.
Oh god.
God of War 2018. I'll never forget Shadow of the Colossus, and
I've beaten both of those too, and like Shadow of the Colossus and God of War. Like God of War I didn't pre-order but eventually bought, and it is phenomenal. But Shadow of the Colossus, I got the Steelbook edition because it was like, because I never played the original, but I knew all about it from watching videos and stuff.
And I was an old school fan. I played it on the PlayStation 2, loved it. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and just seeing that.
And honestly, I'm jealous that I didn't have that experience with it, but it was amazing on PS4, and it was a piece of art.
Oh, it totally is.
So there was that. I mean, even games I wasn't personally that much of a fan of. I enjoyed playing Spider-Man.
I was about to bring that up because you and I played Spider-Man.
I mean, from a disposable popcorn entertainment standpoint, even Horizon, I could argue that if you gloss over
I played Spider-Man a little bit, and it was fun. And Horizon, I still have to actually beat, but I do love Horizon Zero Dawn. That is a phenomenal game. That game, along with the Dark Souls games, I think have set the current standard for what combat and movement like are supposed to be in a game.
I think they're a lot of fun. I'm not personally a big fan of those games. I think they have a lot of problems. But I enjoyed finishing them. I don't know if I'd ever go back to them, but I enjoyed finishing them. And then of course, right at the end here, one of the best games on the system, if not arguably the best, Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh my god, dude! I'm still playing through it, so don't spoil anything.
I won't say anything about it.
I'm taking my time with it. I'm still on the first island because I want 100% all of it.
It's worth it. I will leave it there.
I already have 4 songs, dude. I went out of my way to get all the crickets because I wanted the fog song. That's all. I want the song that makes the fog come in.
You're really going crazy
just
at the
murk
100%.
a bunch of people. I just bring in the fog.
And like,
but such an amazing game, and even a good multiplayer experience, surprisingly too.
yeah, and we will
Brett
definitely.
Did they implement that? I haven't tried it.
Oh, it's so
Brett and I have been
good.
playing it.
It's so good, dude.
I have, because I've been playing Persona so much. I forgot that was coming out. I haven't touched Tsushima in like a week.
Oh, dude, like the raid is now active. They when they
is the multiplayer good?
Very good,
very
good. Surprisingly,
okay.
Like,
well, dude, then I'm gonna have to hit one of you guys up to play it because I don't know anybody else who owns it.
Oh yeah, I mean we've been.
Oh yeah, you can join us. Yeah,
we've been grinding through, but yeah, like, and we'll definitely be discussing this when we get to Game of the Year late in
all I'm gonna say is the only thing I have to say about, like, as far as reception with Ghost of Tsushima is the fact that the Japanese people as a whole have pretty much said, yeah, this game's awesome, despite, like, people want to say, oh, it's so racist against Asians. Like, this game's dope. And, like, there's been, like...
Famitsu gave it a perfect score.
Well, dude, I forget the name of the developer. There's a high-profile Japanese developer, and I'm paraphrasing, but he basically was talking about it, and he was just like, again, I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, you see a game like this, as a Japanese person... and a developer, and then you think to yourself, is like, man, it's almost like they're more Japanese than we are. This is amazing. Like, and I just like, it's like, I love, it's like when a game comes out and it's that good, everyone and I love Japanese culture as an individual. I love the history of Asian culture, and I think that game, it's like, it could have gone into, like, the realm of the supernatural and tried to make it something it wasn't, but it, like, is historic, it's gorgeous, and it, like, keeps to, like, the real fundamental ideologies of the actual historical undertones of what the story and the period it's talking about, which is a real period with, like, and that stuff did happen to an extent, like, generally, like, the Mongols invading, you know, Japan in the 1500s, and I just and the combat.
It's this fun historical fiction. It's kind of like a video game equivalent of, like, Gladiator.
Right, but then they also throw in that Kurosawa stuff where, like, you know, sometimes you just get these badass, like, you know, you pop your sword out of its hilt, and it's just kind of like an old samurai flick. You just get that showdown. You're like, man, I'm about to wallop this fool.
So yeah, do you have any other memories, Spectre, about just, you know, your time with the PS4?
No, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I've really enjoyed on it. I mean, actually, you know, I'm such a PC fan, but there's been some experiences that I've enjoyed more on the PS4. I actually like, you know, one of my guilty pleasures is World of Warships. I mean, it's not really a guilty pleasure; it's a great game. But anyways, I played it on PC and I played it on console. I actually prefer it on console. I think it's overall a better experience on console because it's more of a I guess kind of refined, controlled game on console. Whereas PC is a little bit more chaotic and it's almost like a beta test for the console sometimes.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just been. I mean, there's a lot of memories I have of the system. You know, just. It's been my main, you know, media center as well. You know, I mean, even my girlfriend, she uses it constantly too, and she actually plays games on it too. I watched her play the Untitled Goose Game on it. You know, I mean, there's a lot. She likes Final Fantasy, so we played that together on it. We still have to do Final Fantasy VII Remake. But yeah, I mean, just a lot of fond memories for the system. And this is coming from someone that's not like you. I'm not predisposed to be a PlayStation fan. I mean, I have my bias, but I'm more so, like I said, biased towards the glory days of PS1, PS2.
For you, Guru Blaz, what memories do you have playing on the PS4?
Oh, I mean, like, a lot of them are similar to you guys, but, like, well, I mean, my big standouts were Bloodborne. Just blew my mind when I played it, because I had played the first game of that I had ever played of the FromSoft was I got Dark Souls on 360, and I liked it, but it was hard. Not that I couldn't kind of get it, but it's like I just never. It didn't take off for me. But I'm a huge Lovecraft fan, so when Bloodborne dropped, and I found out that like that was basically what it was, and like also had that kind of, and I was sold instantly. So I just played it, and I mean I'm actually still haven't actually beaten it to my chagrin. I'm on the second to last boss of the game, but it's like I have just too many games, as you probably understand, and like, but like no, that game like I couldn't believe a game could be so beautiful and good and just crazy. And then Last of Us, story wise, when I played because I had never played it originally because I didn't have a PS4 3.
Yeah.
So I beat the edition with the DLC and everything, and it was phenomenal. And as more recently, Sekiro was amazing. Still, that's an amazing game. Like, because I'm always about a good combat system. And then for me, again, it was like a lot of the fighting games and JRPGs, but more like for me, like, you know, it was Valkyria Chronicles. I got that, and that kind of like.
Well, Street Fighter V was an exclusive on PlayStation.
That's true, but I think that Street Fighter V is the weakest of the entire series.
I understand, but all I'm saying is like
I'm a Tekken fan, so I can't really comment on
Tekken is dope too, but again, Tekken is on PS4.
It's on both consoles.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought it was a Sony exclusive. Well, my ignorance.
So. At one point it was, so you're on the right track.
The first fighting game I ever played was Tekken 2 on PS1. So, like, I guess I just assumed that it was.
And yeah, like, do you have any other memories, or is that it?
Yeah, like, my other big ones, but I mean, Ghost of Tsushima very recently, because that game's a masterpiece. But, like, I mean, Persona 5, I'm having an absolutely amazing time with. I had bought it, like, way after it released, didn't get past the first mission right away, had to reset, like, 7 in-game days worth of experience and set it aside, because I was like, no, I don't want to do that again right now. And then I picked it up, and I've been steamrolling through it, and it's great. And then I'd say God of War, phenomenal, because I never owned the originals when like in the heyday of me having my PS2. I have the first one now, but I remember playing the first one and being like, this is the kind of game that I need in my life.
Oh, yeah. So
because the combos, the style of it, the combat mechanics are like that is one of literally probably within the top 3 things for any game that I play that focuses on combat to any degree. Like, that's why I think like Sekiro is like a masterpiece, because its combat is so refined that like it's truly how good you are at your timing of using it. You can't blame yourself on lag or anything else. So like, and then I guess the only other one that really, really sticks out would probably be Final Fantasy VII Remake, because I'm still playing through that. I'm a good chunk into that, and that game is so much fun. I think that honestly, the idea of real time like Devil May Cry-esque combat with like making like a turn-based game, like taking that concept but making that a limited use ability to be able to just freeze time, and that I think is literally a stroke of genius.
Yeah.
To basically, you're gonna do real time combat, and it's gonna build a meter to be able to go into like turn based combat. That I like. As soon as I saw that I had that, I was like, dude, that's amazing. Like the fact that no one's thought of that before. I mean, I'm sure that there's been some JRPGs that have touched on it, like, as you know, like in some way, but it's like that for me, not to mention the fact that I had gotten into Final Fantasy story-wise, and I know that 7 was always touted to be the best. Like, I bought the original 7 off the store, and I still have to beat it, but it's like even that, it's like it's phenomenal. Like it's such a good story that I don't care. Like the thing is like if the story's not good enough, the combat mechanics or whatever mechanics are involved have to be better to make the story being lesser not make me stray away from the game. But if the story's good enough, I don't give a shit. Like, as long as the game's playable, I'm still going to have a good time.
Yeah.
Because I'm all about a narrative.
No, I get you there.
And that's why PS4 really sold it for me. Ultimately, is they always push these amazing, not to say Xbox, like, again, hasn't had its gems, but, like, overall, the amount of narrative, like, ideas and, like, story-rich experiences that I've had with the PlayStation, like the PS4, far surpasses almost anything on any Xbox console.
And I think that's the reason when Phil Spencer took over Xbox, he started just buying up a bunch of studios because they need exclusives. But from my memories on the PS4 is I remember playing Infamous Second Son and just loving that game. I remember that was when I'm like, yes, I'm playing the PS4. The other one is another one I had was I actually enjoyed Order 1886. I know I'm in a small boat because a lot of people.
I haven't played it, but I do know of it, and it did look interesting. Then I heard it's basically a playable movie, but still enjoyable, but shorter than it should have been, and less agency than you would like.
I've said this before, but Order 1886 is a good first act to a bigger story. But I don't know if we're ever going to get that because Ready at Dawn is now making games for Oculus for Facebook. Because PlayStation didn't it was a second party game. PlayStation and Ready at Dawn had to deal with each other. They made games for PlayStation, but they weren't owned by PlayStation. But I think where I was like, yes, the PS4 is me and my buddy Marquise, we played Uncharted 4 when Uncharted 4 came out. When we played the Uncharted trilogy, what we would do is we would switch off on chapters, and we did the exact same thing on Uncharted 4. And I just remember having so much fun, enjoying the story that was
I still have to play 4 because I'm on the tail end of 3, and then I have 4 downloaded to play.
It's phenomenal.
I heard it's a masterpiece. It really perfected the formula of those games. From what I hear,
I love Uncharted 4. I loved playing that game, and then like Horizon Zero Dawn in 2017. My God, I was just excited. I was excited to be like, all right, I'm just here to kill big, huge robotic dinosaurs. I'm big. That's it. And then it's like, there's a really amazing narrative that's being told. Oh my God! And then in 2018, like I remember E3. I remember for a fact in E3 2016. In my opinion, that was the best E3 conference I've ever seen in my life. That was when they announced Spider-Man, they announced God of War, they announced Resident Evil 7, like tons of stuff. But I remember just getting excited for that was when they announced Shadow Colossus too.
I do think that year probably had like the most hype titles that ended up like living up to the hype.
In 2018, I think so. Because I believe Shadow Colossus came out that year too. I believe it did.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. 2018 was, in my opinion, probably PlayStation's
honestly,
best year.
I'll defer to you on dates because honestly, I couldn't tell you. But yeah, like I feel like I know that they all came out in the same year though. They were all announced the same time.
Oh yeah, and then it was 2018.
Like. And then they all ended up just being amazing. Like, and that was the thing. It's like you don't just have one experience to choose from. You have all of these experiences to look forward to after each successive one.
So
it's like it did come out in 2018. I just confirmed that for Shadow Colossus.
Awesome. So yeah, like 2018 was an amazing year. I remember me and Spectre, like we talked about God of War, and we may talk about deeper with like a year's perspective. I don't know, but like I remember like God of War is my favorite PlayStation franchise. like my favorite. I remember playing through the game, and I'm excited to play this. Why they chose to go back to Kratos? Okay, then, and it everything about that game exceeded every single expectation I ever had about that game and more. Like in the twist in that game got me. It's one of the greatest twists in video game history. And if people haven't played it, I don't want to spoil it because it's so phenomenally good when that twist happens halfway through the game. And I just remember that, and I'm going to hold that, and like the ending and everything and what it's leading into and what God of War Ragnarok, whatever that would be in 2021, like I cannot wait to see whatever that next God of War game is. Marvel Spider-Man, that like that is the definitive Spider-Man game. Like I love that game. The gameplay, the story, everything, the ending. Oh, so good. I was not expecting the ending that we got in Marvel Spider-Man, and I loved it. And then you had, like, in 2019, you had, like, just everything leading up to, like, now. And, like, even this past year, like, we got Last of Us Part 2. I enjoyed that game. I know that's a very controversial game, but
I'm still 3/4 of the way through it, but I have enjoyed it. It has good gameplay, good graphics, and the story isn't bad.
Mm-hmm. We got Ghost of Tsushima, which is like,
well, and that and Cyberpunk and Last of Us were really the only games I pre-ordered, like in the past like 2 years.
Like,
and so like Ghost of Tsushima was like, I was like, dude, I need this game. Like as soon as I saw the trailer, I was like, dude, this is the game I need to play. And I mean, obviously there's Cyberpunk, but you know, I'm hoping for an early Christmas, but I don't know.
Well, and I like but this past generation of, like, if we look at PlayStation's own studios, think about this. Sucker Punch, who did Ghost of Tsushima, which is on track to definitely being bare minimum nominated for Game of the Year. They went from making the Sly Cooper franchise to Infamous to this. Guerrilla Games, who did the Killzone franchise from the PS2 and PS3, made Horizon Zero Dawn. Naughty Dog, which has been applauded as pretty much maybe the best developer in the PlayStation Studios brand. Regardless of what you think of Last of Us Part 2, like Uncharted 4 is amazing. And with what they did with Last of Us Part 2,
it's interesting you bring that up because it really did seem like all of a sudden, all of these studios that were just kind of like, you really didn't even know them by name, all of a sudden just upped their game. Well, all of them.
Like,
they came out with stuff like, I had no idea that studio could even produce something like this. It's unlike anything they've ever done before.
Sony Santa Monica, in my opinion, made the best game on the console. Like, wow, like, really? God of War? Like, and I think we'll discuss that later. But, like, Spectre, I want to hear from you because I know me and Guru have been talking, but I want you to get in on this.
Yeah, no, I mean, just I guess in general, where I kind of moving towards like a wrap up, or
I am. Yes, I am. Like, it's just like my wrap up is that this generation has kind of shown these studios kind of come more into their own and go like, we can leave this past franchise that you remember us doing, like Killzone, like Infamous Second Son, all of these things, and do something far more. Insomniac is known as the Ratchet and Clank developer. They made Marvel Spider-Man. Like, wow. Like,
yeah, I mean that is definitely a pattern. Is these studios have kind of gotten out of their comfort zone and tried a different game, and pretty much have universally had success with that. So I think that's very true, and it's. I think it's a good thing. I think it's good for them to branch out and do different things. I don't think we. I mean, it's great to have these tentpole franchises that we love, and to see more sequels in for them as well. But we want to see new things as
More
well.
than a sequel, I want to see something I want a sequel of. Like that hasn't been around before. Like I want, like that's like, you know, because like with this huge, like it's not. I want to say skilling,
or
yeah. Like, and I want to say skill increase, but it's like I don't know. It's like maybe their ability to do something like that was always there, but I think that it also like they're in a way, even though they're all under the Sony brand, they're. I think that I mean, and this is conjecture, but you know, when Guerrilla just drops Horizon Zero Dawn, which like having known them really only from Killzone, it's like, what the hell is this? Like they can just make this if they feel like it, and then the other studios are like, well, we can make something like that, if not better. We just didn't know that people wanted it, you know, until it's like you don't know what you want until you see it, and then like they've been like upping each other's games like this whole time, and then like they keep continually like they go from like one known thing to just something so extremely good and different, like, you know, like with your Spider-Man, your Ghost of Tsushima, like any of that kind of stuff, like, and then and it basically just those are the games that when they come out they shift the gaming paradigm. Like this is what a good game is now.
Yeah.
So this is what people want to play. We need to take this and use its skeleton to build our own masterpiece.
And like PlayStation, like leading into the kind of where we are now, is now we're coming to the PS5. Like we're getting the next generation of consoles. We're getting the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. And over this past generation, Xbox has been playing from behind the entire time. But throughout, they showed the Game Pass backwards compatibility to their entire all of their consoles, the 360 and the original Xbox. The Game Pass is a big thing that they're pushing, where I think that's the difference. Where when we looked at the PS4 and the Xbox One, they very much were pretty much doing the same thing, going through the same lane, going after the same type of audience. Where now, not only during this past generation, also Xbox has acquired, I believe, they acquired multiple studios like Ninja Theory, Double Fine. They even made one called The Initiative. Like they just started buying up studios because they need exclusives, and I agree, because what has been helping PlayStation is them doubling down, tripling down on, we are kings at making exclusives. You want God of War, you're gonna get the highest quality exclusives from PlayStation. And that's something that they applaud, that they tout themselves for, is like, you're here for our exclusives. And kind of leading into the PS5, the PS5 and the Series X, what I find very intriguing about like leading into this console generation is that the theologies of both of these systems are far different to each other. Like, PlayStation is very much going with the 3D, the Tempest 3D audio, the haptic feedback on the DualSense controller, and again, doubling down on their exclusives. Their launch lineup is Demon Souls and Miles Morales. Like, holy crap, that's big. But then you have that. It's very much like the norm, old school style of thinking, and they're still doing the graphics with the SSD, where Xbox is going Game Pass. Buy the Game Pass. It's just Netflix for video games. Spend $10 per month and you just get access to a library of stuff. And that's a big deal. And I liked the theology and the thinking of both these systems are very different now. Instead of going after the same audience, their thinkings of their system, how they go about these systems, is very different now. what do you guys think about kind of like the lead-in coming from the PS4 to the PS5, kind of this lead-in, kind of coming to what we're going to be seeing this coming week on November 12th, even on on November 10th of like now these systems are going to be out and they're going to be out in the wild now. What do you guys think of kind of this next coming generation?
Spectre, you go first.
No. Yeah, no, I'll go first. I don't want to get off on a huge rant, but I'll say this. I'm a pretty vocal critic of the PlayStation 5. We may or may not have a video coming up where I actually argue to wait on getting a PlayStation 5. I think that's the best approach.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, Brett, you're coming at this from a very different perspective.
Yes, I am.
I think this time around, I think it really falls short. I think technologically, it's almost a complete inversion of where they were at the start of the generation. Start of the generation, they had the best price with the best graphics, a lot of promising exclusives on the horizon. There was a lot to really be excited for. They even had a better new controller that was a big upgrade. There was a lot of things that, really the only bad news we got around that time was that the announcement that PlayStation Plus was going to become mandatory for multiplayer. That was the only kind of bad news we got around that time. But otherwise, the PlayStation 4 launch, I think, from a hardware perspective, from a features perspective, was pretty well done. I mean, the games not so much. That the games didn't really materialize until later. For PlayStation 5, I think it's kind of falling short in both regards. I don't really see much from a game standpoint. Even if you're a huge, Souls or Spider-Man fan, I don't think these are. These aren't exactly like sequels. It's just one's a remake, remake, and the other is kind of a extended DLC and / re-release. So I don't think there's much going on in terms of games. We have the promise of some games in the future like God of War, but who knows when that's actually going to materialize. The system itself, price wise, it's parity with the Xbox. It's clearly a weaker system than the Xbox, even on things it's supposed to be, it's kind of known for. The whole big hype for PlayStation 5 was, oh, look, we have this amazing proprietary solid state hard drive, and now we're learning that the system can't even load games as fast as an Xbox Series X. So I think I guess from Sony's perspective, they have to be thankful that they have a lot of momentum coming into this generation. I think that's the one thing Sony really has is momentum, because the PlayStation 4 was obviously a giant success. It's at almost 115 million units sold, and that's a huge momentum. That's more than twice its nearest competitor. And so it has a lot, has that going for it going into this new generation. But I think it's I don't know. For me, I'm waiting on the system, and I don't really feel a need to rush out and get it. I feel like it really falls short in a lot of ways. So cautiously optimistic. I'm obviously going to get one eventually. I'm going to want to play the new God of War. I'm going to want to play an inevitable sequel to Ghost of Tsushima. So I will get one eventually, but I don't feel compelled to rush out and buy one day one. I think it has a lot of work to do. There's a lot of its work cut out for it. There's a lot of ground to cover, and I think it's I don't know. I'm optimistic, but at the same time, I don't think it's where it needs to be yet.
I disagree, but I do want to hear from Guru Blaz first. So, what do you think? Kind of the lead in from the PS4 to what we're going to be getting within this week, the PS5.
Well, from what I've gathered, I think that the PS5, technologically, will be fine for what I would want it for.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the thing, but the other thing for me is I don't have a 4K TV yet, so. Another thing is until I would get
they're like $100 now.
Yeah, I know. I just haven't cared. Well, the main reason I have I have a flat screen, but the main reason I've kept mine is because it has old and new ports. I have my PC plugged into it through a VGA. It has AV, multiple HDMIs, S video, so I can play all my retro shit on it.
Yeah.
but like, other than the fact that I don't have the TV to optimize its full potential,
Mm-hmm.
like the way that I'm looking, I don't have any plans to get a Series X. I do plan on getting a PS5. However, I'm still going to wait to get a PS5 until probably like mid next year.
Okay. And why is that?
Well, a lot of the same reasoning that Spectre had as to why he was going to wait is
Mm-hmm.
like, again, there's not that many games out for it. I personally still have so many games that I've yet to start or finish that I already own on systems I already have.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want and what I, was saying earlier where I kind of want to have it out in the field and I want to kind of just listen through the grapevine and see how it actually performs,
Mm-hmm.
what issues it may have once it's actually being played by the actual consumer,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to like a test group or wherever they get their information from.
Yeah, like when it's out in the
And
wild.
I'll clarify one thing just to interrupt for a second. I'll clarify one thing. I'm not endorsing like Xbox Series X. I don't. I'm not going to buy an Xbox Series X. I don't see the point of an Xbox. But just to clarify that, I'm not shilling for another console.
Is it because of the Play Anywhere initiative that they put into this generation, where you can play PC
Largely,
and?
yes. It's yeah. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, I see the Series X as redundant. I don't think there's really a point to the system when you have when every game is going to be released day and date on Steam, anyways.
Mm-hmm. And for me, like, if I take it, like, I'm gonna try to be as objective as I possibly can, and to like take away my fanboyism, because of course I'm extremely excited for the PS5, and everything that it offers. But I definitely would say, objectively, this is one of the best launch lineups that PlayStation has done in a very long time. Spectre, I understand that you're like, I don't care about Demon Souls and I don't care about Spider-Man, which understandable. But there is a massive portion of gamers who bought a PS4 only to play Marvel Spider-Man, regardless if they were played on Xbox or not. I know multiple people personally who bought a PS4 just for Marvel Spider-Man, and that's a big game that people are excited for, including myself. And then Demon Souls, that's another one where I know people also personally who are like, I'm buying a PS5 to play Demon Souls.
I
Like,
think Demon Souls is a better argument because it's actually exclusive to PlayStation
I'm
5.
that I
You can
understand,
play Spider-Man Miles Morales on PlayStation 4.
but and it like, but I think I believe the thinking of, we have this amazing system, the PS4, that has gotten so much momentum, and there's far more of this system out in the wild in people's homes, having more games that are like, you can play this on the PS4, but you can play this on the PS5 with an upgrade, and so on and so forth. Like, and we're seeing this kind of the backwards compatibility becoming more of an important aspect or an important feature on these systems, and that I would definitely say that is thanks to Xbox, for that. Um, so in my opinion, like, the going from the PS4 to the PS5 feels seamless. It feels like, all right, yes, you're going into a new generation. It's the next big thing, but it feels very seamless. It feels like you can jump from a PS4, whether day one, a month, 6 months from now, or a year from now. The how seamless it will be to go from systems from the PS4 to the PS5 feels seamless, and I think that it's very well done job for both companies. I think both Xbox and PlayStation are doing that, and I think that's a great thing. As I was saying before, the theology of both Microsoft and Sony on how they go about their next gen systems are very different now. Like, and I think I think that's a good thing. I think that's a very good thing. Creates new competition. It'll be very. I'm actually very fascinated. I'm very intrigued, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the sales, how these systems turn out within the day one, the first year, so on and so forth into the future. I think
the other main thing that I think about is like I want to make sure that the PS5's backwards compatibility list is far bigger.
No, they actually have announced there's only 10 games. Every single PS4 game will work on that except 10 games.
Do they have a list?
Yeah, there is a list on the PlayStation Plus.
Yeah, to their credit, the backwards compatibility does look pretty solid overall. I mean, there's literally only 10 games, and really only 2 of those are ones that I would actually care about.
Which 2? Avi, I'm just curious.
Hitman Go, which I've already finished that game a long time ago, and Shadow Complex, which is actually a pretty decent Metroidvania game.
Yeah, they were very much like very nichey games. Like even I was like, I don't know any of these. The only one I know is Hitman Go, and that's like you can.
I've never heard of that. So
yeah, so they're very nichey games, and there may be people who enjoyed them. And yes, it does suck, but like. You're covering a massive library of games on the PS4 that you can throw into your system on the PS5 and play it. And a good portion of games like Borderlands 3, Mortal Kombat 11, are Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Watch Dogs Legion, a ton of these games that are coming out or are out before the PS5 and Series X are getting a next gen upgrade. 4K, 60 frames per second, all that kind of stuff. So like this coming generation of games, like what the PS5 and Series X will have to offer, I'm very excited to see how this goes, and I'm very excited for the PS5. We will be doing an unboxing of both the Series X and the PS5, along with some accessories and so on and so forth. There's going to within this month, there's going to be a lot of content coming from the Brotherhood of Geeks relating to these two systems. I'm excited. I don't know about you two, but I know for me, I'm excited.
Well, I'm excited, but again, I'm also like cautious. I want to make sure that, like, I have no doubt that the PS5 will live up to what I want it to be, but I'm still gonna wait, and I want to, I need like real hand accounts, and I want to see how it performs and see, what the trajectory is going to be a couple months after it comes out before I make that decision.
Yeah,
and I'm really not terribly excited. I think I kind of made that obvious, but at the same time, I mean, there are things I'm looking forward to. I really want to play God of War Ragnarok. I mean, there's gonna be other games that come along. Follow up to Ghost of Tsushima. I'm of course gonna want to play. I think it's gonna be a lot like the PlayStation 4 actually, to kind of bring this all back around. Where early on, I mean, it was an okay system. There wasn't a whole lot to play on it, but boy, its second half of its life did it really come roaring back.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think the PlayStation 5 hopefully kind of follows the same pattern where there's not really a whole lot to play right now, but I mean, there's some things on the horizon here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and for me, I'm ready for everything. So, I think that is it. I think that is everything. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please let us know what you guys think. Are you excited for the Series X? Are you excited for the PS5? Have you guys gotten one? Have you not? We would love to hear all of your opinions about all of this. But guys, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/brotherhoodgeeks. Press the subscribe button. Go ahead and hit that so that way you can see everything. And also like, comment, share, all that. And also press the bell icon. That way, whenever we put up a video, we put up a video. You can also follow us on Facebook, which is facebook.com/thebrotherhoodofgeeks. We are also on Twitter at Dualshock'd BOG. That's the name of this PlayStation podcast, Dualshock'd BOG. And then you can also follow us on Twitch when we stream at twitch.tv/brotherhoodofgeeks. But yeah, so these next consoles are coming out. All of us are excited, maybe not excited. but yeah, this is I'm looking forward to this. Anything else, guys?
Think I'm set.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. Well then, I'm Brett J. Rasmussen. That's Guru Blaz.
And that's Spectre.
And that's Spectre. And as always, live to play, play together. We'll see you guys next time.